Good morning, everybody. I would like to make today's podcast about a subject that I think is extremely disturbing and dangerous. And these are the doctrines of Yuval Noah-Harari. Yuval Noah-Harari is the biggest selling historian, supposedly historian. He's not a historian. Israeli academic in the world today, but the doctrines that he disseminates are very dangerous. They are telling people that the whole of human history could be superficially in a ridiculous, almost it's beyond childish. It's stupid. It's stupid in the concept. It could be crystallized into just one word, calling everybody Homo sapiens, and by this basically solving the whole question of the human race. And this shows that any idiotic idea, if it will be packaged in a long enough book that enough people would, high official people would recommend, can turn into a religion. It's the living proof of this. Take a book, make it seem obscure and clever, get the recommendations of the most influential people in the world, and you can write whatever you want. An idea that if it will be told to you by some random person, someone will not be accepted in any way. It will be laughable. This is not the way to do science. Just to give you a paraphrase about this, to make an equivalence, it will show you how crazy the idea is. Imagine that you will go to a doctor, and this doctor will tell you, I have invented a completely new theory, a new way to look at the human machine. Wow. Please elaborate, professor. Please elaborate, doctor. I now call the whole human body an organism. You are an organism. Okay. Everything could be explained like this. You are an organism that is one body, and this organism will live and die, and abide the laws of nature. Bravo. Bill Gates will go and recommend my big book, and the CEO of Facebook and Google and everybody will hail me as the biggest genius in the world, and that is it. The whole medical science will turn into one big mold of calling everything organism. Organism. This is organism. The same thing is done here. But once a patient will come and he will tell, look, doctor, I have a pain in my tooth. I have a pain in my stomach. I have a pain in my I need an eye doctor. I need a heart doctor, a cardiologist. I need inner organs problem. No, you don't understand. You call this like this and so on, but in truth, it's all of your pains because you don't understand. Everything is organism. Superficiality and simplicity is not science. Taking everything and molding it into one simplistic mold and basically reducing the whole of humanity and the whole of human history into the consciousness of an amoeba in the guise of calling it Homo sapiens is a retarded idea. And it is unbelievable that it could be so easily sold to so many people without putting any sort of criticism on it. People are very proud in our modern world. They have a critical mind, that they have released themselves from the myth and the dogmatic and religious institutions of the past. But you are falling again to the same pit. I wish you have used even a tiny bit and tiny iota for the critical thinking that have led you to the modern world, as you say, on books like Noah-Harari. Where is your critical thinking? Where is it when it is required? In any case, just imagine, really, that in other disciplines of science, people could make their life so easy and redefine the concept of the whole field, like in medicine. A person will not need to study anatomy, he will not need to study immunology, he will not need to study about the different systems of the human body. You will just call it an organism. This is very, very easy. You're making very, very easy jobs for your historians. You understand? They now do not need to learn about the Roman history of the antiquity times. They do not need to be experts on the history of the Middle Ages, medieval history. They do not need to know the history of China and of Africa and of the Indians, or Muslim history, or Jewish history, or black history. This is a very easy life that you are making. Or 20th century history. It is a very easy life that you are making for your historians in the academy, making the biggest and most disseminated historian, somebody that just puts the whole of human history into the garbage can. But you will make a very hard life for yourselves by doing so, by molding humanity into the biggest superficiality that we have ever seen coming from the academy in the 21st century. This is disgrace. It's a tremendous disgrace. And it is no way that anything good will come out of this. Because you see, humanity is a much more complex organism than just one mold of Homo sapiens. That is not what we need historians for. Because you see, it is clear for us that if medicine would have gone through such a process, it would have been laughable. Why? Because it is clear for us that medicine is not just a theoretical, philosophical, nihilistic endeavor for the amusement of the CEOs of Google and Facebook. It is a practical occupation that we expect it to give us something. We expect it to give us a certain knowledge on how to understand different components of the human body. That when they do not function, or when there is a disease, or when there is pain, we will be able to heal this pain. We will be able to understand it and maybe give it treatment. So, the human collective. The human collective is not just an amoeba, to be treated like an amoeba. The superficial corporations that have never been appointed to be the governing bodies of the human race. The human body has a history. The human collective, even if we call it Homo sapiens as a collective, has very, very different components with different inner workings, with different functions, with a different history. And this is the job of historians. The job of historians is to analyze the interconnections and the developments and the interrelationships between all these different functions, each individually and together, of the human race. The problem is that we individually, as humans, will understand that if the science of medicine will undergo such a problematic and evil and retarded process of degradation, what will happen is that many people will have much pain. And this is not something we will be willing to tolerate. Because if you will go to your doctor and will tell him that you have a tooth pain, and he will tell you that there is no such thing as a tooth, because it's all one organism, you are all Homo sapiens, yeah, you will not tolerate this. You will find this idea very, very unacceptable. Right? You will tell him. You will say, take away this clown and please bring me a tooth doctor. Because when our tooth is hurting, we are not willing to accept it. The problem is that there has been a long process of corruption within our human psyche, within our human consciousness, that makes us feel tremendous pain when it comes to our tooth, but very little pain when it comes to our own societies. And it is exactly people like Noah-Harari and his collaborators that have contributed tremendously to this process of mental corruption. This is something that we need at this point to redeem back. Each person, wherever he is. The first thing that you can do in order to do this is to take out books that are unnecessary on your bookshelf, even if they are recommended by Bill Gates or by Mark Zuckerberg, and replace them by more appropriate books. And there are plenty, okay? Much better scholars and sometimes easier to read and sometimes harder to read than Noah-Harari. Once you have such a reference point, then you can maybe see if the doctrines that he is disseminating still hold water. That was the job of the academy in the 21st century. Sadly, today, in most places, we do not have such trustworthy teachers. That is why we need to go and say these things on Facebook and on YouTube. But nevertheless, the information is available. And somebody that will look will find. You see, besides telling you that the whole human organism is a Homo sapiens, his doctrine goes farther, into even a bigger depth. So deep. It is so deep, remarkable, I am amazed. The amount of hatred to humanity in all of its different colors is so reflected in this superficial doctrine. There is no bigger racism than saying that you do not see colors at all. When you say that you do not see color at all, you basically hate everybody equally. This is the worst, biggest nihilism. There's no reason in the world that we should fall into this kind of nihilism at our time and age. Anyway, Noah-Harari is willing to take his profound doctrines even further. So he attributes to Homo sapiens very graceful ability, the ability to imagine. He says that this imaginative force has enabled, this is the magic attribute that Homo sapiens has that has led him so far to where we are today. He says ants do not have the ability to imagine. And so wolf packs, they do not have the ability to imagine. Therefore, they unite, according to him, on a smaller scale. But he claims that humans, or as he calls them, Homo sapiens, have the only abilities that they have beyond ants and wolves or any kind of animal is the ability to imagine. Now, on a flat outlook, this seems like such a nice idea. It seems so charming and nice. Imagination is always nice. Imagine all the people, da 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 da. But when you look into this idea, you understand that it is a lie. And not only is it a lie, it is a dangerous idea. It is an idea that bases the most unique features of the human race on their ability to lie. Imagination is nothing else than lies. Imagination is nothing else than lies. And Noah-Harari, in his stupidity and cruelty and wickedness, attributes the only attribute she is willing to associate to the human race is the ability to lie. That is, of course, a fallacy. Human beings did not reach to where they have reached because of their power to imagine. They have reached to where they reached because of their power to communicate with each other and create and produce things that are useful, and to disseminate the usefulness of these tools to each other. When fire was discovered, nobody imagined the power of fire. It was not a totem that was called fire. They believed in it, that it will give them power, and therefore they connected together on the basis of a make-believe faith. Fire was power, and human beings could communicate with each other on how to disseminate this fire and could gain power over the natural world. And when they could prove to each other by logic, by sense, by their mind, that they can control fire, they had power in their hands. And this power was real. This power was not imaginary. And like so in all of our other endeavors, it is not imaginations that led us this far. Imaginations led us only to trouble and pain that we can also create in excessive manner. In our day and age, our role is not to fall back into imaginations, but to separate imaginations from useful things. Practical things. That is what humans do. Imaginations have brought us only pain and misery. So he projects in an infantile, retarded, and completely unbased in history an agenda that humanity has developed through imagination. You think that the caveman in ancient times had the time and resources and spare time to imagine things? You think the first Homo sapiens was John Lennon singing Imagine in front of Kumbaya in front of a tribe of cavemen. The first Homo sapiens was somebody that brought fire to people. A useful thing. Instruments of hunt. An arrow. A knife. Not imaginations. That is not what makes us what we are. Imaginations is what destroys us. Imaginations are usually harmful. You see, Noah-Harari presents to you a very, a very retarded point of view of life. There was ants, and then there were wolves, and then there was the animals called Homo sapiens that invented how to lie to each other with fabrications. And then they came from this to this, and then to this. High-tech. End of story. Happy end, and they were happy forever and ever after. The end. No, this is not human history. The power of imagination has actually brought us much, much pain. And not only do we not need to believe that it is the power of imagination that led us to this, the power of imagination has turned us to this imaginary conflicts, pain, and to this, and to this, and to this, and to this, and to this. You understand? The human history, which Noah-Harari claims to be the biggest spokesman of the Academy of History, has a lot of things that we need to reconcile with. That we need to figure out. This is no imagination, but it was created by imaginations. So, the world is not just high-tech and Homo sapiens. The world, and especially humanity, is an extremely complicated organism. An extremely complicated organism. And our 21st century history, and as a result, understanding of humanity and of everything that happened to the human race, should have been much more detailed and careful than what is currently being voiced. And actually it is possible. It is possible to rebuild the true historical doctrines that will enable us gradually in our global world to have what we really want from this kind of science, which is true peace. Like just what we want to have for medicine is healing for the body. What we want to have from the science of history is healing for the collective body that is called humanity, by achieving true cooperation, true understanding of the different components of this huge body, so a correct and healthy cooperation between them, based not on their negation into one big global mold of Homo sapiens, ruled by a computer elite that just regulates any kind of deeper thought, but out of an understanding of different components, just like a good doctor. And this is very much possible. But it requires us to rehabilitate our academic institutions and turning them back into what they are obliged to do for us. Just like you will require so from a doctor that will tell you that you are just an organism. You must demand that institutions will do their hard work. And if not, appoint the proper people that are capable of doing so, and not superficial things that seem to be so popular and so profound and disseminated all throughout the world, but they might be nothing, just a shell. So there's many things to say, and we will not be able to cover all of human history in one short broadcast. It is not possible to make such short summaries of human history. It is possible to do this. At least the essential things could be said in quite a short period of time, but for sure not in one broadcast. So until then, good morning to everybody, and have a nice